development team, and today's purpose is to give you an insight onto the major enhancements for version 12. And with that, let's kind of just get right into it. Version 12 really attempts to address everything in the project controls lifecycle. This diagram you're seeing was brought from the Construction Users Roundtable of the 5 key areas that make up project controls. So starting off with the estimating system, some feature sets that we've developed to help answer or extend is, what is the scope of the work? Can we account for some very detailed, parametric estimates? How can we do that? How can we leverage our historical information to streamline new estimates? How can we compare new estimates versus what we've done historically? Are we in line? What's our variance? Do we, how do we focus in on those important tasks that maybe have deviated too much from what we've done in prior? When we look at plan and schedule, how do we tie in our estimate with our scheduling? How do we define those constraints? How do we associate time to our estimate, developing cash flow diagrams, resource utilization diagrams? What can we do to help answer these questions? On the monitoring progress, taking into account progress made in the field on the job tracking side, what variances are we seeing, and being able to adjust in a variety of new methods, which kind of ties more into our forecasting side. Ability to manage changes. So what you've estimated might be one set of numbers, and what's actually happening in the field, field conditions, variances, new scope changes, a lot of things impact what actually is, and the ability to take account of that. So being able to manage those changes, have an idea of what we originally estimated, what's currently approved, and maybe even an additional way to forecast trends. Lastly, as we tie in the monitoring and progress and managing changes, is where are we in respect to what we currently have approved, and where are we in terms of what we think is currently going on, right? And what's the cost, and what's the total impact to complete given items. So with that, with each of those questions, we have specific features addressing those. So from a historical perspective, we have a new benchmarking capability that helps us streamline our estimates. We have a new MC² import. So very popular with piping industry is being able to do detailed parametric estimates. Well, we can take those estimates from MC² and build in a detailed cost breakdown in hard dollar. There's new enhancements on the P6 integration. So off the top of my head is supporting of 8.2, the ability to leverage schedules defined in Primavera is another one. Getting into the monitoring progress, control budgets. So once we finalize our estimate and we get into the execution phase, we have the ability to lock in essentially what our original quantities are, man hours, cost, lock in a control budget, which is only changed through approved change orders, and having a current estimate that we use for what-if analysis, trends, and bottom-up forecasting. New enhancements on the pay request by period. So previously, when you went to the pay request and approval register, basically was as is. It just takes into account all progress made on a particular item. Now you can specify a period. So you might, as a quick example, you might have 10 entries against one item, but if they're dated, if they're time-stamped accordingly, for each day of the week or each week, you can really tell the system, I want to capture my progress, my pay request up to week 3. So that's a new enhancement there. Managing changes, tying back into the control budgets. As I mentioned with the control budget set of numbers, the only way we can change those is through a controlled approval process. So quantities won't change, costs won't change, man hours won't change unless it is formally approved, whether through a budget move or a contingency drawdown, a contract or budget change or quantity change. Lastly, on the the forecasting. Coming from version 11, the three ways we could forecast our cost was using the average performance, latest performance, or planned performance. Now taking it a step further, we have a manual override, so you can plug in what you think the man hours are going to be, the quantities, the total cost, and forecast your estimate at completion that way. And you can base your forecast on both what your current estimate is as well as your control budget. So that is the all-encompassing project controls lifecycle and the features that we've introduced. Now to kind of start from the top with the benchmarking and what exactly it is. So at a very high level, the real purpose is to streamline the estimate, compare against similar jobs, similar items that you have, that are marked historical, right? And we give you the ability to measure your cost performance as well as your man hours per unit and units per man hour. As I go into the next screen here, we're looking at the cost breakdown structure. You'll notice essentially the three new columns on the right-hand side there, the benchmark unit cost variance, the low, and the average. And that color coding gives you a good idea to the estimator where they need to focus. So just looking at some of those red items, we're 27% over, 34% under, 54% over. It gives you a good idea of where you need to focus and why is there such a deviation, right? In this particular screenshot, we're just looking at the cost, and as I mentioned, you can also compare against the man hours per unit, units per man hour. Now, as you know, the cost breakdown structure is a summary list of our cost items, so we're just kind of getting a high-level snapshot of any deviations. To investigate further, we can go into the cost item record. So in this case, we're looking at the 36-inch RCP, and this is the benchmarking graph that now accompanies every cost item if there's benchmarking data against it. And in this chart, we're seeing a lot of data points. We're seeing what our average cost has been, as indicated in the orange square. The white diamond is where we currently are. The blue circles indicate what we've estimated previously, and the blue triangles indicate our as-built costs. So we give you the ability to measure both what you've estimated previously as well as what actually happened. And as far as preparing new estimates, it might be more worthwhile to measure based on what you've actually did, as opposed to what you estimated. So let's Shannon, any questions on benchmarking at this point?
No.
Nothing.
Can they pick what they see there? You have to get all of those, or can I just say I want as estimated and current?
So the question is, related to this current screen, we're looking at all data points as estimated, as built. So taking it back a step, if we go into job properties and let's use the shift arrangements as an example, you can set a global default shift arrangement for all your new cost items. Well, it's kind of similar for benchmarking. You kind of set a default of what you want to benchmark against, and then for each cost item, you can inherit that default, or you can go in and say, well, for this item, I don't necessarily want to benchmark against all of these jobs. I want to benchmark against a select few, and I only want to look at my as estimated, or I might want to look at my as built, or I might want to look at it a different way. Maybe my linear feet per man hour, or my linear feet per secondary unit of measure. So you have the ability to customize it at the cost item level.
Thank you.
Other questions? Man, I thought there'd be a lot of questions on benchmarking. No? At least can I get it like it's a cool feature or anything?
I think it's awesome.
Oh, all right. Can they hear us?
Yeah.
Testing?
Bueller? Are you the only one here?
Voodoo economics? All right, well, moving on. So that's benchmarking. MC square import. I kind of touched on this before. MC squared, very powerful for the parametric estimates, very detailed, very, very detailed. And we found with some of our existing customers that they need this capability. So what we've done is write a integration with the tool, and just to kind of give you a glimpse of what that import wizard looks like, just taken straight out of MC squared, how are we going to map over all that information? And as you can see, it can get down to, we can create a level 5 structure from how detailed you've gotten on the MC squared side. And we found this particularly pretty useful with heavy industrial companies.
Yep.
So this is a new import which adds to our Excel capabilities, our current Excel capabilities. MC squared questions? No?
No questions?
All right. No questions. All right.
You're going to be done pretty quick.
I know. I had a whole hour, so we'll probably get out and
Well, I have a question for you. Is there a cost for that, or is it included, or is it a new module?
no, it's included. That's part of version 12. I guess the only hiccup is if the customer owns MC squared, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's standard functionality. So P6 integration enhancements. So some that are not noted that are probably people are curious are it supports 8.2. There's the ability to not send. Actually, I'll just go to the next screen here. It's easier to talk to. So looking at that far right tab, the activity calendars coming from version 11, we would create a schedule in Primavera, the bid build calendar. That's usually what it's called. Now you have the ability to not send that schedule. So you might have a corporate-wide, enterprise-wide schedule that's applied to all your P6 projects, and so you can utilize that and not have us overwrite it. So that was a common problem in the past. That's been corrected. Under the login options, we can actually jump to this in a little while if someone wants to see it. You have the ability to set up predefined logins. So you might have, a master scheduler, a junior scheduler, and you can set up those predefined accesses through the master library. The resources, actuals, tags pretty much function the same way. Chen, any questions on P6?
We do not have any questions.
No
Just
questions?
breathe. All right, I have a question. So does this mean now,
Yeah.
we had a customer, Justin, that wanted to be able to change the schedule in P6 and instead of changing this to hard dollar? Does that mean now we would be able to do that?
No. So we cannot take in changes from Primavera. However, there is two ways that we can create that P6 schedule. One is we can take the hierarchy we define in the cost breakdown structure, and whether it's level 1, level 2, level 3, etc., we can create that same work breakdown on P6. Or we can just send over all the terminal items, and it would be up to the P6 scheduler to group them into a schedule that's applicable to their execution. Not necessarily follow the estimates breakdown, but more of the scheduler's breakdown.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So like the benchmarking, one of the major enhancements is on the control budgets, and this now gives you the ability to establish 3 sets of numbers. So the original budget preserves our baseline numbers and will never change. So it captures what our original quantities are, original man hours, original costs. We have a new current budget, sometimes referred to as a control budget, that can only be changed through a formal approval process. So if you want to do a budget move, contingency drawdown, quantity change, budget change, contract change, those have to actually be approved in a new register in order to impact the current budget numbers. Right? The current estimate is looked at in different ways. It's kind of doing what-if analysis. What if I change, a quantity from 1,000 to 2,000, or what if I change my my crew size or my productivity? What does this do on my cost? That last one, the current estimate, really plays in with the execution side. When you're forecasting, do you want to forecast on what you budgeted, or do you want to forecast on trends that you're seeing in the field, or new production rates or new crews? So it's useful for that. When we look at the cost breakdown structure, you'll notice some new columns, and this is just a simple view looking at the CBS, and we have in this view our original budget for our cost and man hours compared to our current budget and current estimate. Right. I don't know if everyone can tell on this screen, but the columns for the original budget total cost to the current budget man hours are all in gray, indicating that I cannot simply come into the CBS register and override them. As I said, the original budget numbers will never change. You cannot change those. The current budget numbers will only change through a formal approval process. All right, so 3 budgets. Questions on the 3 budgets?
So if you turn around and use P6, somebody goes and changes the schedule, they fire it back, it's going to go to the current estimate.
Right. So the question is, if we sync, essentially now we sync our schedule, or we sync to P6, and let's say we have a duration change, and we're going to stay in sync with that duration change. That will impact our current estimate, and that will allow us to compare, what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
This duration change affected my current estimate. My excavation item might now be, $200,000, and how does $200,000 compare to $111,000? Well, that's a $90,000 difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not shown on the screen, but that's a quick scenario.
Justin, can you kind of expand on the reason why the approved changes are so important, contractors and getting paid
Sure.
for equipment, and what the reason was for that enhancement?
The biggest one is keeping track of scope changes, whether they're approved or whether you need a place to take account for pending change orders. You have that ability. And at the end of the day, when you're getting that final payment, well, here's a new audit log of everything that has been changed on your estimate. Here's what you originally approved for, and here's all the changes, and here's all the documentation. Here's excavation changed. Here's what it originally was. This is what it actually was. Here's my change request for $50,000, and this is why you should give it to me. So it just gives more power back to the hard dollar users on getting very detailed in capturing their cost and having truth in their numbers.
Ensuring that they get paid for work performed.
Yeah.
Because they've been approved by owners or
Exactly.
what have you.
Yeah, that's all good. So any other questions on the line? No? Great.
So I'm sorry, the key difference, the question. So from before and after, what actually did you add in the version 12? What was actually added there? It was those 3 columns?
The question is, version 11, what columns do we have? Which is the new column?
Which is the new actual
Yeah,
column?
so in version 11, these columns did not exist.
Wow.
Oh, wow, okay. Now that makes a difference.
Right, and there's more. So there's your total cost, there's your man hours, there's your quantity, there's your unit of measure, and there's your, that's it, there's 6 of them. So it captures all of those. So that did not exist in version 11.
Okay. And they automatically get that conversion. Just have their maintenance.
Yep. Okay. So somewhat of a bigger enhancement on the pay request by period. It might seem small, but I'm sure it's one of those nagging things that we've taken care of. When we go into that pay request and approval, you'll notice the key box on the bottom is the period end date. So as you're capturing progress on your cost items or account codes, you're specifying a period start, period end date. Well, this is where you can specify for the month of May of 2012, when do you want to stop with that progress payment. So in this case, we're stopping at May 7th, right? We might have entries all the way up to May 31st, but as far as this payment is concerned, we're only taking progress up to May 7th. So that was not previously possible in version 11. Okay. So now, kind of getting back into the budgets, and this is what's impacting our current budget. So I've mentioned a couple times, the only ways we're going to modify the numbers shown on the CBS is if we actually approve one of the three methods we currently support, which is a budget move, a budget or contract change, or a quantity change. There's a new register in version 12. It's called the Budget and Contract Changes Register, as you kind of see on the screen here. And essentially, you give some descriptions on what it is. In this screenshot, we're doing a budget move. In the items below, we have items 3.1, 3.2. We're essentially just doing a swap of $5,000 in labor costs. Negative $5,000 on excavation, positive $5,000 on embankment, resulting in a net $0 change. That's a key requirement for a budget move is it equals net zero. The change will not be approved otherwise. Right? Just a review of the contract changes register. So the ability to, just like any other register, is to group and sort. In this case, we're grouping by status, so we can kind of see instantly, what changes have been approved and what are pending. And you can see by the three types. There's contract changes, there's budget moves, and a quantity change currently in the system. Right. Questions so far? The last major piece on the version 12 is the rational forecasting. So in version 11, there was three methods. You essentially take into account what's happened to date, your as-built costs, and you can forecast the remaining based on your plans from the your planned production essentially from the CBS, what your average performance has been, or your latest. So those three methods still exist. But we've added a fourth one, which is a manual forecast, so you can override what your cost of completion is going to be, and you can base all of these on your current budget or your control budget as well as your current estimate. Right. Here's just a kind of screenshot of that manual forecast method. In order to do that, you actually have to log what you're doing. It's not just I'm going to go in and change some numbers. There's somewhat of a process involved in this, or we can come in and at a very high level specify I think it's going to be $50,000 to complete this work, regardless of what's happened to date. This is the set number, and we can save that, and then we can measure against that accordingly.
Questions?
No questions? Well, that's, I think that's the last slide. Oh.
Okay, so for version 12, just to let everyone know, the official release date will be announced on the August 2nd webinar that's scheduled for 11 o'clock. So please make sure you register for that so you're aware of the official release date. All of our HARPs and the HD sales staff will receive an email with installation and download instructions in that wave 0 prior to any customers receiving access to version 12. So look for an email from product.release@harddollar.com. And if you have any questions, Justin is available, and you can shoot him an email if you have any questions regarding any of the features and how it may be relevant to particular industry segments. Looks like